Welcome to a new case. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and come back for a new real case. Thanks for watching. In this video, we're looking into a truly unsettling case. Let's begin. On the evening of August 23, 2022, 56-year-old Alessandra Matteuzzi was making her way home. She lived in an ordinary apartment complex on Via dell'Arco Baleno, a quiet residential area in northern Bologna. Around 9 p.m, she was on the phone with her younger sister while walking up to her building. Nothing seemed unusual about that evening. It was calm, almost routine. But in an instant, everything changed. During the call, unsettling noises broke through: hurried footsteps, dull thuds, and the unmistakable sounds of a struggle. Fear and panic echoed in Alessandra's screams before the line suddenly went dead. Alarmed, her sister immediately called the police, desperately explaining what she had just heard. But by the time officers arrived, silence had already settled over the entrance of the building. What had truly happened inside would only become clear later. Alessandra Matteuzzi had been born and raised in Italy. At the time of her death, she was working as a salesperson in a women's clothing store, a job she cherished because of her passion for fashion. Colleagues and clients alike described her as punctual, attentive, and always kind. Those who knew her personally spoke of a gentle, empathetic woman who naturally cared for others. She remained closely connected to her family, visiting her mother often at a care facility and providing constant emotional support. Years earlier, she devoted herself to caring for her father during his long illness, standing by his side until his final days. His death left a deep scar, and Alessandra struggled to regain her emotional balance afterward. She became more reserved, avoiding new relationships, despite encouragement from friends and relatives. Her closest confidant remained her younger sister, Stefania. The two spoke daily, sharing updates, worries, and decisions, both big and small. Alessandra also stayed active on social media, posting photos of work, family gatherings, and occasional trips. Her lifestyle was modest, structured, and quiet. She preferred stability to chaos, and although her social circle grew smaller after her father's passing and her mother's declining health, Alessandra found comfort in her routine: her job, her family, her sister, and her beloved pet. But everything shifted when she connected with someone new online. What began as kindness and emotional support soon became a source of turmoil that shattered her sense of peace. That man was Giovanni Padovani, a professional soccer player and part-time model. Born in Agrigento, Sicily, he was just 26 years old when he crossed paths with Alessandra Matteuzzi. At the time, he was signed with a sports club, seemingly living a promising life, until their connection took a dark turn. His name wasn't linked to any public scandals or problems from the past. He looked good on the outside, with a good body, good grooming, and confidence. He looked young, full of life, and very much in touch with the modern world. Padovani was very involved on social media sites. There were posts from training classes, modeling jobs, and trips all over his pages. A lot of people, mostly women, liked and commented on his posts. He seemed nice, open, and easy to talk to. At first glance, he looked like any other young man, fit and stylish. There were no red flags in the way he behaved online. In fact, it helped build the picture of a man who was well-balanced and good with people. In the summer of 2021, Alessandra found his picture. They met for the first time online, which happens a lot these days. Even though they were 30 years apart in age, Padovani looked and behaved like an adult. From the start, he showed real interest and was able to have deep conversations. Alessandra wasn't looking for a new relationship, so the link came as a surprise, but didn't make her feel uneasy. At one point, he talked about having health problems in the past. The fact that she was weak touched her. Later, her sister Stefania said that Alessandra's ability to understand how others felt was a big part of how close they felt to each other. Over time, they started talking to each other more often. They talked on the phone, texted, and sent photos to each other a lot. He would ask her about her day, tell her about his workouts, and talk about his success. His voice was warm, and at first it seemed a little shy. For being understanding, he thanked her and told her how much he liked keeping in touch. Everything felt real and honest, and it was just like any other day. Pavani was nice, cool, and interested when they finally met in person. He didn't seem rushed or eager. He came from another place just to hang out with her for a few days. He saw her house, her normal life, and the people around her during that visit. He stayed within her limits. The time he offered to visit her mother in the care facility stood out. It was a kind act that made a big mark. This showed that he was okay with her life the way it was. They looked forward to these visits all the time. Their time together in Bologna was spent at her house, on walks, or just getting to know the city. He did daily things with her, showed interest in the things that were important to her, and tried to be there. He posed for pictures with her, put them online, and wrote her sweet words of support. He often told her how beautiful she was, how nice she was, and how calm she seemed to be in all situations. There was trust between them as their friendship grew. The age gap didn't seem to matter at that point. He respected her and called her a strong, beautiful, and grown-up woman. Alessandra wasn't used to men showing that much emotional care, but she thought it was real. Her sister had heard some of their talks and agreed that he seemed good at first, always polite and never pushy. Alessandra started to feel like she could lean on him and talk to him without worrying that he would judge her. They talked about everything from daily things to very personal things. He would text her in the morning and before bed and send her little gifts. He wasn't bothersome or bossy. He was just there in a way that showed he cared and was emotionally aware. But after a few months, things started to change. After the new year, the first signs of trouble showed up. As time went on, Pavani's actions got worse. He called Alessandra more often than normal and asked her in-depth questions about who she was talking to and how she spent her time. What started out as friendly chats turned into questions. His tone changed in a way that was easy to hear. He started to have doubts because he thought she was keeping something from him. Those suspicions kept coming back. He even got her sister Stefania involved by calling her and asking her to agree with him. What began as doubt quickly turned into strong, unwavering charges. Stefania remembered that his calls got meaner and meaner. To get his point across, he would yell, make charges, and not listen to anyone else. It got emotionally draining to talk to him. In the end, Stefania stopped talking to them. Alessandra didn't do the same thing right away. She kept talking to him, hoping that things would get better, even as they got worse. She tried to calm things down instead of getting into a fight. Pavani, on the other hand, started to break more and more rules. There was no longer any trust. Every time she talked to other people, he got jealous. Even posts that were not offensive caused arguments on social media. He wanted to know why people liked and commented on things. Things were getting worse in the relationship. He would call her in the middle of the night, send her texts for no reason, and make things seem like they were emergencies. His behavior became unpredictable, going from angry rants to frantic attempts to say sorry. It became clear to Alessandra that she was losing control of things. She still couldn't see a clear way out, though. He was deeply involved in her daily life, both mentally and physically. Early in 2022, Giovanni Pavani's actions got worse than just being upset. She found out that something was wrong with her online accounts after one of his trips to Alessandra's house. Her email and social media accounts would no longer log her in. When she tried to get back in, she saw that the new passwords had names and sentences that were very similar to Pavani. That made her think he had gotten into her computer and changed her account information to take over. It didn't end there, though. What he did, it wasn't just a digital disturbance. At the same time, Alessandra found out that her WhatsApp account was tied to a device she didn't know about. She looked more closely and saw that someone had put spyware on her phone. This was software that let them listen in on her conversations, read her message logs, and see who she was talking to at any given time. What this meant was that Giovanni Pavani had been watching her from afar. He was watching what she did online and getting to her private data without her permission. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a planned and organized way to track someone online. When Giovanni started talking about things from her private talks, it confirmed what she already thought. He seemed to know exactly when and with whom she had talked. Even though she hadn't talked to any other guys, he said she was messaging them. His claims were based on how he saw things, which made me more and more suspicious. He acted with an unsettling sense of confidence and didn't care about her personal space at all. Every part of her internet life was under his control. He also put more pressure on them and kept an eye on them almost all the time. He told Alessandra that every 10 minutes she had to send him a short video clip of her surroundings. These clips showed where she was and what she was doing. If she said no, he would get angry and accuse her of lying, threaten to end the relationship, and demand that she give him regular updates. His tone became more and more authoritative. Alessandra didn't feel like a partner anymore. She felt like she was being watched and in a tight spot. In the end, it was clear that Giovanni had not only hacked into her phone, but also her home protection system. He was watching her live because he had hacked into her security cams. This was proven by a message found between Giovanni and his mother. He sent her a picture of Alessandra that was taken from the security feed at her house. It was another violation in a trend that was getting worse. He had gotten so close to Alessandra that she had no idea. In the second half of 2022, Giovanni Pavani's actions turned out to be very hostile. He started following her around in real life as well as online. She started getting home from work without notice, and he would wait outside for hours, watching her windows, for her to come home. Even in her own neighborhood, she didn't feel safe anymore. His neighbors often noticed him. One resident said they saw him trying to get into the building. Someone else saw him on top of the building. Someone in Alessandra's neighborhood was told not to open the door if they saw Giovanni outside. The people who made these requests were always scared. She was no longer sure if he would stop at spying. He was no longer hiding what he was going to do. He finally started hurting Alessandra's things. It happened that someone broke into her car. There was a case where the wire for the car's lights was cut. He also played with the electricity in her flat by unscrewing fuses to turn off the power. These actions were used as an excuse to drag her outside and have a face-to-face conversation without anyone else there. He wanted to make her feel like she had to face him, so she turned around and did it. It became normal for things to break, people to yell, and signs of physical fights to happen. People who lived nearby said they heard loud fights and heavy banging. He lost any self-control he might have had because he was jealous and needed to be in charge all the time. He broke all the rules. In one case, he went back up on the roof and tried to break into her house. This happened after she stopped letting him in. His actions were becoming unpredictable and dangerous. Alessandra's mental health got much worse very quickly. She was scared every time she went near her house, opened a window, or walked down the hall, and she was always anxious. Her bag started to hold pepper spray, which was something she had never done before. People who knew her well heard that she was afraid to go home. She felt panicked all the time. Alessandra sometimes stayed with her sister to feel at least a little safer. Stefania made her feel welcome, even though she was very uncomfortable. Alessandra couldn't stay away for long, even on those nights she did go out. Her very close dog was still at the flat, and she missed him a lot. Going back home wasn't an option. It had to be done. Because she couldn't leave her place fully, she was open to harm. It meant she could never really get away from Giovanni. The time between July and August was the most stressful. Alessandra knew that she wasn't safe. In an open conversation with Stefania, she told her about specific instances of aggressive behavior. But even then, she kept looking for ways to calm down. She didn't want to argue with him, because she thought that he might change something about the way he was acting. But Giovanni's fixation grew stronger. Distance didn't mean anything to him. He saw it as an insult. Because the risk was getting worse, Alessandra Matteuzzi chose to look for safety. The first police report she made was on July 29th, 2022. In the lawsuit, she talked about what Giovanni Povani did, including how he stalked her, invaded her privacy, and made her feel threatened all the time. She sent proof, including screenshots of threatening texts and pictures that showed he was close to her house. Even though she tried, no instant safety measures were taken. That's how the next few weeks went. Alessandra stayed scared and worried, but she kept in touch with the police. She went back to the station on August 3rd with more information. She gave more proof and information about the ongoing threat. Even so, the study was still in its early stages. No choices were made about how to keep everyone safe. She sent in another report on August 8th. The bothering still hadn't stopped by that time. Povani kept coming up to her house, trying to get inside and making her feel uncomfortable. Alessandra told him that she thought things were getting out of hand. She wrote down specific events like power outages, damage to her car, and attempts to break in. Text messages with angry themes were sent at the same time as these actions. On August 13th, there was a fourth meeting with the police. Alessandra made it clear again that she was scared for her life. She said Giovanni was still following her around, getting in the way of her daily life, visiting her at home, and using technology to keep track of her. In the case file, there were now direct quotes from his texts that made it clear that he meant to hurt the person. There was one of Alessandra's words that really scared me. "I don't want to die." That sentence really showed how she felt. But the police answers didn't really reassure her. No steps that could be taken were taken. There was no official warning or restraining order given by the authorities, and there was no surveillance around Povani's apartment. Officials pointed to rules for the process and the need for more witness accounts. Still, Alessandra had already given a lot of information about break-ins, stalking, property damage, and tampering with the electricity in her house. Investigators had to wait longer than planned because witnesses were on vacation. The process went more slowly because of this. Some people working for the prosecution said that her report didn't show an instant threat to life because there had been no cases of direct physical harm. They saw it more as a stalking case than a serious threat. The issue was not seen as urgent by the authorities. In the end, that point of view would be very important in what happened next. She did everything she could to keep herself safe. She asked for help, wrote things down, and warned about the possible risk. The events were happening quickly, But there was no one who could have stopped Pavani from acting in an important way. There were no special orders or rules for keeping an eye on things. She kept living in fear, always getting ready for the next bad thing to happen. After the fact, Alessandra's family raised major concerns about what police did. Her family and friends thought that the terrible event could have been avoided. From a rational point of view, it was clear that things were getting worse. Giovanni Pavani's behavior had changed from being obsessive to being openly scary. He did things on purpose, over and over, and in dangerous ways. At the management level, however, there was no real help. It was only 3 days before the event that Pavani made a list on August 20th, 2022. In the end, it was found in the Notes app on his phone. The list named certain things, like duct tape, a hammer, rope, or handcuffs. He also wrote down steps, like pretending to have a chat with Alessandra, getting her to let him in, and making sure he had the right tools. These entries made it clear what he was trying to do and how much thought went into it. This wasn't a temper tantrum on the spur of the moment. It was a chillingly planned action. His plans included getting ready physically. On August 21st, Pavani left Sicily, where he had been doing soccer-related things, and went to Senegalia, saying it was for personal reasons. After that, he went to Bologna and got there on August 22nd. Later, travel routes and timestamps proved this schedule to be correct. He didn't let Alessandra know that he was coming. His actions were sneaky, which suggests he was trying to catch her off guard. He hid a hammer in a bush near Alessandra's house when he got to Bologna. He had already looked around and found a quiet spot in the apartment building. He put the tool somewhere that would make it easy for him to get it when there was a need. Being able to see this far ahead of time is a troubling trait. Investigators also found that he climbed to the roof of the building to watch Alessandra come back. That took place just hours before the crime. One of the scariest pieces of proof was an entry Pavani had made in his digital journal weeks before. In a note from July 2nd, he said, "I'll end her because she emotionally ended me." He made himself look like a victim by saying that Alessandra was using him and making him look unstable. The message went on to explain why his plan was right and showed that he knew exactly what was going to happen. "I'm sure I'll go to jail. This note will tell the police what she did to me," it said. It was very clear. He made up his mind a long time ago, and what happened next was a planned attempt to take back control. Mario Pavani was already in Bologna on the morning of August 23rd, 2022. He got there the day before and didn't tell anyone. He was in town, but Alessandra didn't know it. He stayed in the shadows all day and watched her move. From somewhere near her apartment building, he watched for the exact moment she came back home. He had earlier put the secret hammer away and made sure it was easy to get to. Around 9 p.m. that night, Alessandra walked up to the front door of her building. At the time, she was talking on the phone with her sister. Pavani moved because he was already close by. From that point on, things moved quickly. It was Pavani who closed in on Alessandra as she got to the front door. He was right next to her in a matter of seconds. While her sister was still on the phone, she heard Alessandra's voice change dramatically, followed by the clear sounds of a fight. Hearing the call recording and hearing from witnesses, it sounds like Alessandra tried to protect herself, but the attack happened quickly and violently. Pavani went to get the hammer and hit her. The first blow was so strong that the tool's metal head came off of the handle. They didn't stop when the hammer broke apart. He kept hitting Alessandra with his hands, hitting her in the head and body. Once inside, he took out a heavy cast-iron bench near the front door and used it as a weapon. He hit several times with it, finishing the attack with a lot of anger. The autopsy revealed that Alessandra had at least 20 different injuries, many of which were deadly. The injury hurt her head, chest, and arms. The report also said that she had several broken bones and that there was proof that she had been dragged across the ground. Pavani didn't try to run away, even though the screams and rising noise caught the attention of nearby residents. He stayed at the scene. When the police got there, they saw him sitting quietly near the front door of the building. Later, police officers said that he didn't show any signs of fear or anger. He didn't fight being arrested. When asked, all he said was, "Good thing you came." People said he was calm and aware at all times. Alessandra was taken to the closest hospital in serious condition, but her injuries were too bad for them to help. She died just minutes after being found. The types of wounds, the amount of them, and the force used to cause them led the police to say that Pavani had committed a very cruel crime. He didn't try to get away, hide evidence, or make the crime scene look like it was a mistake. Everything pointed to an act that was planned ahead of time. People who lived nearby and saw the last moments said he moved quickly, decisively, and without hesitation. Some people tried to help, but they couldn't get to her in time. Alessandra's sister called 911 right away because she was on the phone with her during the attack. Her statement was very important in figuring out the exact order of events. The attack only lasted a few minutes from beginning to end. After a long chain of events, starting with psychological pressure, stalking, and digital spying, this crime was the last straw. It was a fatal act of physical aggression. There were no signs that Pavani was losing it or going crazy on the day of the attack. His actions were cold and planned, and they were in line with what he had written in his digital diary earlier. Giovanni Pavani was taken to a mental hospital after he was arrested. He did not show any regret. He decided not to say anything during the first interview, using his right to not testify. Later in the probe, he said a few things that weren't asked of him that were meant to put the blame on Alessandra. He said that he felt betrayed and mentally destroyed, and that his actions were caused by his extreme distress. The crime had been carefully planned ahead of time, according to the investigators. Even so, Pavani's defense team pushed for a mental exam. The court talked about possible mental health problems, such as suspicious and obsessive behavior. In the end, the experts came to the conclusion that he knew exactly what he was doing and was able to control it. So, there was no such thing as legal crazy. Pavani said one last thing before being sentenced. He said he felt like he had been having a bad dream. He also said that he should get the harshest punishment if the court thought he was mentally fit. He said he was a broken man and tried to explain the crime by saying that Alessandra had made him feel bad about himself. The court didn't agree with Giovanni Pavani's argument. The facts of the case, how well he prepared, what he wrote in his journal, and how calm he was after the attack all showed that he knew exactly what he was doing. He tried to put the blame on the victim by saying that he was emotionally destroyed, but this was shown to be false. The court decided that his actions were not caused by a mental breakdown, but by extreme jealousy and a need to get back in charge. People thought that his answers were an attempt to make sense of a carefully planned crime. Following Alessandra Matteuzzi's death, the internet turned into a new place where people could fight. There were hundreds of comments on news stories about the case, and many of them put the blame on the victim. People didn't like Alessandra's age, how she looked, the clothes she wore, or the fact that she was younger than Pavani. Some users supported the attacker, saying that he may have snapped because he was tricked or because he was too easily hurt. One comment made a lot of people angry. If you looked at her, Donatello Alberti, who was in charge of the Italian arm of the Red Cross, you could understand why he was jealous. After getting a lot of negative feedback, he said, "Women should behave more modestly, like our grandmothers did." This caused a national backlash, and Alberti was fired. Soon after, Alessandra's family made a complaint against 25 people who were responsible for the meanest online messages. Cyberbullying was the subject of a rare large-scale probe by the prosecutor's office in Bologna. The way people talked in public had changed into a new kind of violence, this time aimed at a target who could not defend themselves. On February 12, 2024, Giovanni Pavani was found guilty of following Alessandra Matteuzzi around and hurting her. He got a life term in prison. In its ruling, the court stressed several factors that made the crime worse: planning ahead, extreme cruelty, and a lack of remorse. It looked at the pattern of stalking and psychological abuse that happened before the act as well. Both cases were heard at the same time by the court. It was up to all 25 people to answer. The case set a very important law standard for how to deal with cyberbullying. Jealousy-induced illusion, also called Othello syndrome in psychology, is a mental illness in which a person is crazy sure that their partner is cheating on them. When the relationship started to fall apart, Giovanni Pavani showed all the standard signs. He was very controlling, made accusations over and over, invaded people's privacy, and became more and more angry. Unlike normal anger, this condition causes people to think about things over and over again, lose touch with reality, and not be able to critically reflect on themselves. In the worst cases, it can turn into violence or even death. Thanks for watching. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true crime documentaries. Stay safe, and see you in the next one.